Hey, everyone. Today, I've got a story for you. The Night King who returned with a god, making waves in a big way. Meet Leon Dragonia Lionhart, a regular guy from Earth, hustling hard day in and day out to make ends meet. But, pushing too hard can backfire, and he ended up leaving this world due to overwork. By some stroke of luck or misfortune, he got a second shot at life in a different world, this time as the child of a high-ranking duke, and that's where his new life began. But what's really wild is how, after 300 years, he made a comeback to Earth. To find out what kind of life Leon Dragonia Lionhart led, let's dive into the story together. Waking up, Leon found himself staring at a pretty woman who spoke in a strange language. Taking in his small and delicate body, he realized he'd reincarnated into a fantasy world. Life wasn't just good, it was cushy. Born into a well-off family with a big name, Leon didn't have to worry about much beyond eating and sleeping. As the son of Grand Duke Dragonia, in the Kingdom of Lionheart, he also had a fancy title. Being the kid of such a big shot meant his folks had high hopes for him. At 8, he started learning swordsmanship, hoping to become a knight for the kingdom one day. And that's where his tough luck kicked in. Youth was all about grueling training, worse than hell. To get the goddess's acknowledgement and become a holy knight, Leon traveled far and wide, bashing demons to rack up good karma. At 20, he hit the jackpot when he met goddess Ariana, becoming the holy knight he dreamed of forever. But life threw him a curveball. The whole town learned that Argon Majesty Lionheart bit the dust after battling the archdemon summoned by the Empire. With no king, goddess Ariana showed up, gave Leon a new job, and granted him the Lionheart to keep him alive. Now, he was the Grand Duke Dragonia and the king of the Lionheart Kingdom. Life's a seesaw though. While Leon and his gang were slaying demons, the Empire's school of dark magicians was forcing experimentation again. The Empire had accepted the bastardly northern cult. By the time Leon hit 121, the world was on the edge. In the final battle, against heaps of demon nasties, everyone got wiped out. Leon was the lone survivor, fighting this never-ending battle. He fought like a maniac for his ideals, until he hit 300. That's when he swung his sword and finally put an end to it all. From wearing fancy clothes to having them ripped to shreds, Leon battled on. Just in time, he landed a series of killer blows, chopping off the demon lord's head and destroying the last remaining demon gate. Standing before the giant head, Leon muttered, "Rise, courageous one, now is not the time to fall. Rise and fight." Just then, the Korean Hunter Association rolled in at the dungeon. Staring at the scene, the boss of the Dark Gate got taken down with one hit. After a pause, the leader asked, "Who are you?" Turning around, Leon said, "I am King Lionheart, the Knight of the Glorious Knights, and the agent who carries out the will of the holy temples, Leon Dragonia Lionhart." This big moment marked the return of our hero king to the human world, after centuries of battling and sacrificing. Because if they kept messing with demons like this, drama would be around the corner, and everyone loved a bit of drama. On Earth, an unknown gate had shown up all around the globe 300 years ago. The gates that had appeared all around the world over the last 30 years shared the same similarities. The theme was of a world on its way to destruction or already wiped out. Survivors who managed to come back to Earth kept the unbelievable strength they picked up in the demon realm. These survivors were always in the government's sights, with efforts to scout them at any cost. Living 300 years among demons meant waking up to a life of slashing and killing until a message came in saying no demons were left. As soon as Leon got back, he was taken somewhere. Seeing a bald guy in front of him, he knew it wouldn't be wise to spill the beans about being from Earth. Being a king and holy knight who lived for 300 years in the demon world seemed way more valuable than being an orphan who overworked and kicked the bucket at 20. After a good deal of mental struggle to lock in his identity, Leon finally spoke up. And what did he say first? "Refer to me as Your Majesty, peasant." The other guy, expecting to dig out some info, froze like he'd been glued in place. After a while, he got it together and called Leon, "Ah yes, Your Majesty." The chat between the two guys went on, with the bald dude asking, "The Black Gate, I mean, Your Majesty's world, got into contact with our hunters, and you killed all those demons, correct?" Leon nodded. adding that he not only wiped out all demon types, but also defended the honor of the knights. He said that he would order the man to be his temporary secretary and bestowed upon him the privilege of recording this glorious incident. The bald man was sweating because of the cultural clash. Suddenly, Leon said, "Are there no etiquette rules for how you treat royalty here?" Hearing this, the other guy felt the heat, quickly texting someone to bring food to satiate the Majesty's hunger as quickly as possible. While waiting, he lightened the vibe by giving Leon a quick update on what's going on in the world and the explosion threat from dungeons if the out-of-nowhere gates weren't sorted out. Right in the middle of his lively talk, the food was brought in. Leon looked at the slow-cooked bone soup with salt, pepper, and a bit of crunchy kimchi, totally puzzled. If he sat down and enjoyed that tasty soup now, wouldn't he be giving it all away? Fighting the urge to scratch his stomach, he swallowed hard. Then, he thumped the table and acted clueless, asking the other guy about the dish. Finding out it was seolyong tang, a dish close to the hearts of country folks, Leon got angry. It's known as the soul food of peasants. You inferior. How dare you serve a royal peasant's dish? Is this how your kingdom treats another kingdom's royal? Just back to earth, he was still a king and a knight, dedicating his whole life. And now, he had to eat a dish meant for a lifetime of struggle. Wasn't that a bit too much? After giving those government folks a piece of his mind and breaking the monster-proof glass, Leon kicked back, enjoying a fancy steak and some 93 red wine. Chilling out with his aristocratic vibes, while munching on pricey grub, Leon had the government guys regretting their bad attitudes. Kim Jin-soo, the boss of the Korean Hunters Association, chickened out and didn't dare to turn around. He asked his assistant to step up to chat with Leon, probably thinking she'd have a better chance. Hari blushed at the situation and tried to refuse, but in the end, she had to face the scary room and apologize for the dinner interruption. Unlike his earlier treatment of the bald dude, Leon was a bit more polite this time. He told Hari to take a seat and then got straight to the point, saying, "The reason why I was giving you all a hard time wasn't because the food was humble. It was because of your attitude towards the king." Basically, Leon thought that when welcoming a royal from another country, they should be treated with the utmost respect because it could affect the safety of the whole nation. Hari, after catching on, turned pale and tried to apologize. "Due to my lack of knowledge, I have disrespected you." Seeing her genuine apology, Leon let it slide and moved on to asking about the demon situation. Hari, back in control, carefully asked if he'd let the government look after him from now on. Her job was to convince him to join the Hunter Association without worrying about promises just to keep him from joining other countries. Leon stayed quiet for a bit, realizing that teaming up against demons wasn't complicated, but there was a big obstacle. The calm Leon from a moment ago suddenly got worked up. A king cannot be a soldier for another nation's military. "I will create a new knight's order here in this world." Hari's face turned red, and she tried to refuse, but in the end, she had to nod. Leaving the room with a more tired look, she probably felt humiliated by having to ask a self-proclaimed big shot like that to join an association linked with the government. While cursing the annoying people in the association who bragged about their money and power, the control room suddenly blared a warning signal. All the employees' phones got a message that a dungeon had popped up in the Honam Plain. Kim Jin-soo squeezed his phone, looking really worried. He was afraid that if a dungeon outbreak happened in the storage area, those bad elements could wreck all the food. Hari, hearing this, quickly remembered S-rank hunter Lee Yong-won from the Phoenix Association. He was there, so why couldn't he stop the appearance of an orange gate? Thinking about those guys, Kim Jin-soo furrowed his brow, suspecting that they probably had other plans, so they needed to go and stop it immediately. As expected, the association president Lee Yong-won and the Phoenix Association members were already waiting there. Seeing his arrogant expression, he knew this guy deliberately caused the dungeon outbreak because the government did not accept his request. The Phoenix Association had been consistently requesting a tax exemption to earn additional trillions from the gates. They had been earning a lot from the byproducts obtained by gates, magic stones, and monster materials, but didn't want to contribute a single penny. In this urgent situation, Hari, tense but assertive, spoke up, "Hunter Lee Yong-won, we need to close the gate right now. As of today, It's 1 week if we leave it like this." She couldn't finish her sentence before he interrupted. He claimed that his members were severely injured and couldn't explore the dungeon in their current state. Angry at his deception, Hari scolded them for having no love for their country and not thinking about the people. Lee Yong-won, hearing this, found it amusing. He only understood that in this world, justice was determined by money and power. Witnessing the disdainful behavior of the association president, Leon couldn't stand by any longer. He stepped forward, calling him an ignorant and outdated fool. Seeing him, Hari quickly said, "Leon, your majesty." Leon suddenly got furious, instructing her not to casually mention the name of a king like that. She was only allowed to address him by his title. Lee Yong-won, insulted by a stranger, right in front of so many people, approached him to ask who he was. In the midst of this boiling situation, Hari got angry and intervened, urging them to stop, saying, "Please stop Hunter Lee Yong-won. He's a survivor." Hearing this, the other guy paused, turned his face quicker than a pancake, and gave Leon a Western-style greeting. But Leon was unimpressed by the flashy entrance and brushed him off. He turned to the other two and told them to spill the beans on what's happening here. Given the chance to talk, the two seemed pretty stoked, looking at each other with big smiles. Hari quickly explained, "It's a dungeon break. When a dungeon break happens, a large amount of demonic elements come out and affect the land." According to her, the Honam Plain was a big deal for storing food. Getting the situation, Leon reassured them, promising to bring in his crew to help tackle the monsters. But, being stubborn, Leon insisted he couldn't just join another country's military without the local king's nod, so he needed to receive permission from this nation's king. Despite Hari's frustration, Leon said, "There is a legitimate process and rules for everything. How can you call yourself an honorable knight when you don't abide by the laws of your nation? Hurry and send words to your king." In the end, government folks had to talk to the president to make sure he was cool with Leon joining in. Before all this, Leon had Hari find moms to make dolls themselves, turning it into a doll-making contest in the plain. After wrecking the first doll out of annoyance, Leon did the same to a bunch that didn't look good. Cussing up a storm, even Hari got the boot. After going through lots of dolls, the only one Leon liked was an 80-year-old woman, with just 2 words, "Incredible." Leon went up and asked her, "How many children have you given birth to?" 12, the old lady said. Leon praised her like crazy, even suggesting the president give her a medal for being so dedicated. With his goal achieved, Leon and the crew went back to the gate. They did a quick ritual, put the doll there, and from the magic circle, Leon pulled out a fancy cup, praising and giving props to the land goddess Demira. A golden light showed up, followed by water appearing in the cup, rising up. The sun was rising. The doll suddenly stood up and said, "Lionheart, my child." With a ton of respect, Leon bowed to the goddess who just popped up. "I greet Mother Earth Demira, the god of life and abundance." After that, he filled in the goddess Demira on what went down here, not forgetting to mock a bunch of wanna-be bad guys hanging around, acting tough and looking ugly. Goddess Demira, pretty pleased with everything, decided to spread her divine vibes and fill the land's cup with her own blood and guts. A drop of water from the doll's hand fell and magically purified the once dry wheat field, making it burst with shiny golden wheat. Looking all proud, Leon scolded the clueless worshippers, saying, "Watch and learn. You who are ignorant and cannot learn and cannot know." Lee Yong-won, ticked off by the insult, grabbed a handful of wheat. His face twisted like a monkey eating something spicy, warning everyone, "Do not be fooled. Crops that are grown using magic are poisonous. I'm sure you know that." Not stopping there, he recklessly insulted the goddess Demira, calling her a stupid straw doll. To keep up his image in front of the goddess, Leon shot him a nasty look and said, "I can only forgive ignorance once. Do not dirty the goddess with your light tongue." Furious, Lee Yong-won was left speechless. He tried to find another excuse to prove that what just happened was all a big fake show of divine or demonic power. He found an appraiser and insisted on checking if these wheat grains were up to snuff for eating. With a wave of magic, the appraiser conjured up a board, confirming that this was blessed rice. Moreover, it was able to cure even serious diseases, including cancer, with regular chowing down. Still amazed by the recovery rice, Kim Jin-soo told his team, "Someone, Go get a pot from the chief's house." It's crazy to think that a simple bowl of rice could be as good as a reinforcer that was worth 3 million won per bottle. While Kim Jin-soo was still getting his head around the incredible healing power, Assistant Han Hari rushed over with the bowl of rice. In a strange twist, she grabbed and chewed on a beetle, and whether it was alive or not, she somehow got a buff. Hearing this, their eyes lit up even more than car headlights, and Kim Jin-soo immediately told his team to catch as many creatures as possible, getting ready to go through the gate with a fully powered-up crew. With everything set, Goddess Demira let Leon know she's taking off, giving him a pat on the head and a reminder to chow down good. Looking at the big orange whirlwind, Leon told Han Hari, "Now that the soldiers are full, we'll go into the gate." Seeing things get worse, Lee Yongwon scowled, convinced that Leon's only good for handing out blessings and buffs, useless in a fight. Sticking to his guns, he smirked and said, "Meaning they will definitely fail." Chap 5. Everyone hustled into the dungeon in a flash. Among the government's hunter crew, who were visibly on edge, Leon was the odd one out, muttering to himself, "A duel with the boss? I like it." Walking up front, Han Hari overheard and couldn't help but stay quiet. It wasn't the time to spill that they usually ganged up on them. Luck was on their side when Leon noticed scattered bones around. He realized this place had more than just the boss. Han Hari breathed a sigh of relief, explaining, "While the number of monsters usually decreases as you defeat them with most gates, in the case of skeletons or zombies, or even demons in special cases, as long as the boss monster is still alive, they'll infinitely respawn." With things clearer, Leon started figuring out the situation. While they were strategizing, a bold red warning popped up out of nowhere. It warned of an imminent dungeon outbreak, with the Dullahan Commander Knight approaching with his crew. The hunters had 3 hours to defeat the Commander Knight. The moment the announcement ended, the government's hunter crew felt aches all over. A lot of skeletal warriors began marching towards them. Kim Jin-soo vented his frustration. "Lee Yongwon, you bastard. You should have told us if there was something like that ahead of time." These monsters were very strong. Faced with the overwhelming enemy, Kim Jin-soo quickly told everyone to calm down and assign specific tasks to each position. Snipers took aim for long-range hits, while shield bearers were ready to stop the incoming horde. As the battle kicked off, Kim Jin-soo, a B-rank shield bearer, skillfully juggled offense and defense. However, after taking down one demon, he realized 2 enemy mages were throwing high-level magic their way. Kim Jin-soo urgently shouted to divert their attention to him. A magical onslaught hit, but he held up thanks to the top-notch government-sponsored gear. Just as he raised his head, the Dullahan boss on horseback charged right in front of him, with one hand holding his own head and the other wielding a massive sword. A seemingly effortless swing sent opponents flying a considerable distance. Seeing the squad leader flattened amidst the rubble and other comrades not faring any better, Han Hari turned to Leon for assistance. However, she was met with disdainful eyes and an even more arrogant expression. "A king should never join a small battle like this. I can't believe you'd try to force me to help take on those damn bones. It's rude to the goddess too. I can't make myself watch any more of this." Feeling irked, Hari knew he had no intentions of helping. She turned to her other teammates, stating she would handle the boss alone, while the others should support Kim Jin-soo and their allies. She executed a graceful mid-air somersault, following by a surprising sword swing aimed at the Dullahan. Unfortunately, it was expertly blocked. While the young girl was engrossed in her strategy, she made a momentary lapse and was distracted by the floating head of her opponent. Dullahan threw his head to draw attention, then swiftly unleashed a powerful punch, sending her flying much like he did with squad leader Kim Jin-soo. Fortunately, the elders below caught her, intending to shake her back to her senses. Unexpectedly, as she raised her head, the horse carrying the knight was right in front. Seizing the opportunity, the small girl didn't bother running away, but immediately launched a wide attack in response. With a resounding explosion enveloping everything in smoke and fire, the Dullahan, unable to evade, was struck. He roared, swinging his chaotic sword wildly to keep threats at bay. In this intense moment, a suspended scale shifted, and Leon stepped forward, applauding loudly. He praised the skilled swordsmanship of the figure standing before him with just one hand. Then Leon politely declared, Unknown knight, I, the king of the Lionheart, will give you the right to challenge me. There's no need to have more troops be injured. Let us end this fight with a noble duel between two knights." Hearing these words, everyone fell silent. No one expected the boss to agree to such a proposition, but astonishment swept through the group when the other party nodded in approval. Leon excitedly pulled his weapon from the magic circle, saying, "A knight of honor, you can let down your neck. I'm sure you use double-wielded swordsmanship. It can't be a proper battle with a one-handed weapon alone." Breaking the suspense, Han-Hari tried to explain that the Dullahan wouldn't be beaten unless he managed to chop off his head. Leon looked at her, all puzzled, asking, "So, is that important?" Seeing more talk was useless, she just stayed quiet. Leon lifted his sword, keeping up his noble act and saying, "The first knight of the goddess of light and justice, Dragonia's Archduke and Lionheart's lion-hearted king, I sanction this honorable knight for a challenge." Without waiting for more, the duel kicked off, and Dullahan made the first move. Despite the power and skill behind his big sword swing, Leon easily blocked it. He then pushed the sword to the side and gently placed the blade on the guy's bare neck. Once he said, without slowing down, Leon kept going, scoring a second win with some basic moves. But he didn't stop. He pointed the sword at the kneeling Dullahan, telling him to get back in position. The two kept dueling, and each time, Leon came out on top. Even though the guy couldn't talk, Leon silently sized up the experienced knight in front of him. Just from the way he stood, Leon could tell this was a seasoned warrior. Even so, he had to get that third win. In no time, Dullahan lost 10 lives, but it woke him up. Instead of pushing more, he called for soldiers to bring his head. In his mind, he wondered how long he'd repeatedly fought without honor. To end that cursed journey, he willingly gave his head to King Leon Dragonia Lionhart. Leon looked pretty satisfied, putting his hand on Dullahan's head and saying a little prayer for the soul to rest in peace. The Dullahan knight turned back into his human form from the past, and along with all the soldiers, disappeared, leaving all the glory to this big-shot king. The dungeon door closed, but Han-Hari and her boss were still in shock. No matter if you're a king, you've got to grab the good stuff. Leon went up to the dropped loot, checking it out, and in a bit of disappointment he said, "This will sell for so much money. This is garbage." Then, he kicked the loot, breaking it apart to the regret of those around. It had been 4 days since Leon returned to Earth, and in that incredibly short span, a myriad of events unfolded. To start with, a minor tax uproar caught Leon off guard. He vented his frustration to Hari. "How dare you ask a king from another nation for taxes? A king does not count his coins. Why are we discussing matters that should be taken by the people beneath me? Enough with the coin talk. It's not my job." Then came the whole affair of gaining new followers for the cause of introducing divine power into the land. However, the real challenge lay with Leon's extravagant demands. Not only did he demand a high-end, luxurious bed, but he also wished for attendants to cater to his every need, along with an array of artwork hanging above his bed. For these aristocratic requirements, poor Han-Hari had to endure a late-night quest, scouting 5-star hotels until 2 in the morning to find the perfect residence. As was her routine, she diligently brought breakfast to Leon, catering to his every whim. But just as she was rolling the food cart in, she received a comment. "You should eat when you can. Don't go around skipping meals." Looking at the delicious spread, she silently reminded herself to have a sandwich later. When she opened the lids, Leon invited her to sit in the chair next to him. Thinking the king was being generous and wanting to share a meal, she pictured a pleasant moment, only to be hit with, "I asked, what are you doing instead of making sure these ribs are easy to eat? In which country do kings and peasants dine together?" Fuming inside, Han-Hari could do nothing but remain silent. After a hearty meal, she took Leon to the fancy apartment that the government had specially rented. As they reached the door, someone unexpected blocked their way. This guy, Park Jong-shon, introduced himself as the big shot from the Dojung Company, one of the top 3 chaebol groups within the nation. He emphasized that he was there by chance, not standing around waiting like they might think. He then turned to Leon and greeted him. Not impressed, Leon lifted his head and said straight up, "A mere merchant wants a handshake." The information about survivors was a super secret, and even though Han-Hari managed to avoid this guy, she always wondered what Director Park was up to. While Leon was checking out the scenery from the balcony without turning back, he replied to her concern. There is only one thing a merchant would want. He was probably pursuing for profit. Hearing this, Honhari felt like she finally got it. The whole deal with the blessed rice field had become the talk of the town online. At the same time, on Park Jong-chan's side, he was watching a video about the rice field that dropped a few minutes ago. He was mad and grilling the appraiser nearby, although the appraiser confirmed that the rice was safe and genuinely healing. Just then, the assistant walked in, announcing that she had checked out the owner of the field. Convinced that rice made from the blessed grain could cure all sorts of diseases, even cancer, she stressed to her boss that this negotiation had to be a winner. Park Jong-chan knew all this, but couldn't stomach the thought of losing face. He slammed the table, muttering, "He dares to look down on us. He thinks he's all that just because of that rice. You've messed with the wrong enemy, you savage survivor. He's just like the other survivors. Those bastards who think that the world they were living in is the best one. I'll overpower you with culture shock." Back on Earth, Leon had three main goals. First, to spread the belief in divine beings. Second, to reform the Knights Templar. And lastly, in order to massacre all evil thriving on this land, recover divine power, and raise the Knights Templar. His train of thought got cut off when Honhari announced a visitor. Park Jong-chan, seemingly getting the situation, played along and bowed to the person he mockingly called foolish to achieve his own goals. Despite putting on a friendly front, Park Jong-chan's real intentions were clear. After his spiel, he had someone bring in a suitcase, expecting Leon to unveil its contents and be impressed. Fate, however, had other plans. Leon, maintaining a royal demeanor, responded somewhat sarcastically, "All right, since you've put in the effort, I'll take it." Unfazed by Leon's attitude, Park Jong-chan reluctantly suggested Leon take a moment to open the suitcase, thinking its contents would amaze him. Not wanting to drag it out, Leon told Honhari to check it out. Suddenly, an array of gleaming swords appeared. Park Jong-chan seized the moment to boast, saying, "They're the most elite weapons prided by our group. I'd like you to choose whatever you like." Unlike Leon's stoic silence, Honhari was amazed, asking in disbelief, "All these are unique rank items crafted by the master craftsmen of the Dojung group." She couldn't believe her eyes, silently cursing Park Jong-chan for showing off. These were high-end weapons they wouldn't normally see, even if they were rich. She'd only seen them on YouTube back in school. However, Leon's reaction was unexpected. He criticized the weapons, saying, "Where am I supposed to use these low-rank weapons?" This single question immediately annoyed Park Jong-chan. Even Honhari didn't understand what he meant. Looking at those confused faces, Leon explained, "How can you make a good sword without the star's aura or the holy blessing? Do you only use weapons to hunt beasts?" But Park Jong-chan couldn't understand what the guy in front of him was talking about. He even thought Leon wanted him to dry swords out in the sun and pray to them. But Leon wasn't someone satisfied with just words. He conjured a legendary sword from thin air and told his assistant to choose any sword from Park Jong-chan for a sharpness test. Honhari eagerly grabbed the sword she'd dreamed of for 4 years. Dawn. As soon as she held it, she felt its overwhelming power. After a single strike, only one sword remained intact. While the one claimed to be Dojung's pride lay shattered, Leon's ancient sword showed no sign of damage. The testing was done, and Leon, losing patience, cut the conversation to exactly 3 minutes. Park Jong-chan, in shock, glanced at his watch and promptly bowed to request the patent rights over the blessed rice. He offered 180 billion won to buy the entire crop and proposed a long-term business contract with a fake smile. After hearing that, Leon frowned immediately, asking, "You imbecile merchant, you dare insult divinity?" With those words, the vibe got seriously tense. At this point, Park Jong-chan seemed spooked, struggling to stand straight, but he still insisted he didn't know where he messed up. Leon, with a bit of disdain, explained again that the rice grains on this land were blessed by the goddess Demera. That blessing was given as a reward for the farmers who sweated and went through labor in the fields. It was not just things they could buy with money. He called Park Jong-chan a profit-driven swindler, someone who lacked faith in the divine and didn't care about others' suffering, saying he had no right to meddle. Getting back to the main point, Leon asked Honhari if she had everything ready as instructed. Jumping on a chance, she suggested eagerly that maybe he'd want to take the test, saying that it would make things easier if he did. Expecting Leon to agree, she was surprised when he turned the tables, questioning her nonsense and daring to suggest testing the Lionheart King. His plan was to pick capable soldiers and personally check them. Honhari felt a bit disheartened after that. Shortly after, Leon was at the talent assessment for the awakened individuals. Looking over the candidates, he couldn't find anyone he liked. Then, he had to enter room 9, where some people were already waiting. They asked him to put his hand on the measurement sphere, but Leon flatly refused, saying that a peasant had no right to test the honor of a knight. For him, only the gods were qualified to judge the strength of someone as noble as him. The next was a practical test at the gate. Leon confidently said he'd go there, not as a participant, but as a spectator. The participants were confused, not getting what kind of participant he was. As a result, Leon was moved to the assigned area. Walking in like he owned the place, the participants included Gu Dae-sung, a D-rank hunter with 10 years of experience, but no promotion, thinking Leon was just some foreign worker. Aside from the 60-year-old veteran who seemed capable, the 3 rookies looked like total beginners. Once everyone gathered in the field, they formed a group in the middle and began introducing themselves. Shin Na-yeon and Shin Tae-hoon are siblings. They had 0 experience dealing with monsters. On the other hand, the older guy, Oh Gang-tae, had a bit more background. This was his 5th year, and his weapon was a gauntlet. Leon, however, threw everyone off by saying, "I do not fight. One cannot use a sword made for slaying dragons to kill chickens." His response left his teammates in silence. The test this time was to hunt 50 kobolds to move on. The supervisor occasionally reminded them of interesting things that might show up on the battlefield. He would directly intervene if someone faced danger. Despite having protectors, Gu Dae-sung felt uneasy, remembering when Shin Na-yeon kindly handed Leon a bow, assuming he didn't have a weapon. However, much to their surprise, Leon ditched the bow, loudly stating that knights never used such lousy weapons. The gang quickly dove into the woods, and Gu Dae-sung, the most seasoned of the bunch, took the lead, guiding everyone to a good spot for monster hunting. When Shin Tae-hoon heard this, he suggested heading towards a settlement at the end of the terrain, where a lot of monsters were expected. However, his idea got shot down, and the only reason was that there weren't enough people for a face-off. If they got surrounded at that point, the whole mission would be a bust. Gu Dae-sung, with his 10 years of experience, proposed smoking out the monsters living in caves. Not long into their journey, a few monster critters popped up out of nowhere. Gu Dae-sung quickly assigned positions. Tae-hoon, block with your shield. The young guy promptly got into a defensive stance and started taking on the monsters with some deadly jabs. But his overconfidence in easily handling the monster crowd turned out to be misplaced. In a moment of distraction, a kobold leaped at him, only to be narrowly avoided with Gu Dae-sung's timely help. A little while later, they'd efficiently dealt with the first group of kobolds. Gu Dae-sung felt the team was doing well, except for one member. The Shin Tae-hoon brothers started complaining. The supervisor chuckled, assuring them everything would be sorted out and advising them not to stress too much. Following Gu Dae-sung's lead, they brought items that could be set on fire to the kobold's hideout. While preparing to light the fire, Leon suddenly spoke up. "Do you really think that's the best you can do?" Naturally, an argument broke out, but Gu Dae-sung, after a heated exchange, turned away and signaled others to get ready. As the fire grew, the kobold horde rushed out like a disturbed beehive. Seizing the enemy's panic, Shin Na-yeon fired arrows to kick off the fight, and others joined in, wildly throwing stones at them to cause chaos. Gu Dae-sung was thrilled with everything, planning how to finish off the ones here before returning to the field to deal with the remaining creatures. However, a sudden loud roar disrupted his thoughts. Gu Dae-sung's face turned pale. He couldn't believe that the boss of the Seoul Gate, ranked higher than C, appeared at this critical moment. Everything went crazy in an instant. Gu Dae-sung, unable to escape, had to grit his teeth and yell, "Dahoon and I will take on the Knoll Captain. Nayeon and Grandpa can deal with the Kobolos in the cave." He figured each side needed at least one experienced person. Facing a rank C boss, without frontal protection, would be suicidal for an inexperienced D-rank warrior. Facing the massive fire-spewing boss, Shin Tae-hoon couldn't hold back the intense fear. In a tough spot with the enemy raising its blade, he knelt down, giving up. Even with disaster looming, the supervisor acted like he didn't see it coming. Worried his impulsive teammate might get into trouble, Gu Dae-sung charged forward, risking it all to use his shield to deflect a blow for his teammate. But despite the effort to step in, he couldn't keep it up for long. In this desperate moment, out of nowhere, Leon appeared and clamped down on the massive blade with 2 fingers. Leon coolly said, "Raise your shield and face the knoll again. You did it once, why can't you do it twice? Now get up and raise your shield." Confused by the unexpected help, Gu Dae-sung hesitated. Leon, in full combat mode, continued, "You impertinent peasant. You dare defy me after witnessing the glory of the King of the Lionheart's guidance. For a Templar like me, to guide a peasant soldier is an honor to be passed down for generations. You didn't even thank me for the grace. Raise your shield, block and counteract." Faced with unexpected criticism, Gu Dae-sung wondered if he messed up. The boss, seemingly eager for battle, suddenly roared. Upon turning, it got scolded by Leon. Does this rabid dog have a death wish? Looking at the once fierce boss now standing there nervously, Gu Dae-sung realized who he was dealing with. He then used the shield to block a blow, but that didn't make Leon satisfied. While Gu Dae-sung struggled, Leon berated him. "Fool, you need a shield, so how can you only fight with strength? Do not face an opponent stronger than you head on. Deflect its attacks and look for an opening. How will you succeed in the battle? By only defending. Your opponent is not a scarecrow. It's a living being, a beast that can learn. Use your head and think." Watching Gu Dae-sung struggle, Leon switched to motivational encouragement. "Do not let your potential rot. Use your potential. You can do better." After enduring a string of criticisms, Gu Dae-sung finally snapped to attention, realizing Leon's advice was more effective than 1,000 words of encouragement. At this moment, he resolved to face the boss ruthlessly. As the battle neared its end, the kobold boss swung its sword towards the young man with all its might. Gu Dae-sung, also determined, roared and charged forward to counter the attack with his shield. The blade grazed the sturdy shield, and for a moment success seemed within reach. Overjoyed, Gu Dae-sung thought he could defeat the monster, but within 3 seconds, he received a punch straight to the face. Despite following Leon's instructions, he still met a bitter end, proving that 10 years as a Grade D warrior was still a Grade D. After the exam ended, Leon was invited to the office of the head of the Korean Hunter Association. The head had disguised as a 60-year-old man to observe the situation. After brief greetings, he directly asked Leon if he had obtained what he wanted. Instead of answering, Leon stated he had no intention of joining a foreign nation, so the government didn't need to secretly monitor him. Oh Kang-hyun chuckled at being caught off guard and shifted the conversation. If he wanted to establish a guild, they would help. There's no better way to gather people than through reputation. He mentioned a gate upgraded to red due to the main team's continuous failures for a year, so they wanted Leon to help close it and secure the Jewel of Wisdom, guarded by the boss of the Red Gate, Jag Spinner. As the Seongju Sports Complex gates appeared, the first team KPP Guild was sent in to deal with the situation. They were met with a sprawling city, a futuristic world that looked completely different from Earth's current state. After a bit of observing, the team leader informed everyone that they'd tweak their tactics and use a nearby high-rise as a temporary base. After a few hours in, Ho Yol, an A-rank tanker, sat taking in the scene, but there was no sign of NPCs or monsters. The unusually quiet atmosphere puzzled him. Suddenly, his attention shifted to a group resisting, armed and strategically moving through the city. Without info on the boss, they decided to send a recon team to survey and gather more data. Before they could finish discussing, a flash of light streaked by, saying a quick goodbye to their guild leader. The scene left everyone in shock, struggling to grasp what just happened. A loud shout echoed, "We're being shot at. Find cover." Vice Guildmaster Ho Yol wondered if an A-rank tanker couldn't react in time. How could they beat it? Gunfire continued without stopping, and if it kept up, the whole team would be wiped out. Adding to the urgency, the building was about to collapse. As the deputy guild leader, Hu-Yol ordered everyone to evacuate. While on the move, Hu-Yol told the sniper beside him, "Hirai, go ahead and check the exit." Following orders, she ran ahead, even turning back to report to those behind her when nearing the door. But just as she got outside, Iri suddenly stopped. Something was odd around her neck. By the time she realized, her whole body was cut by an almost invisible steel mesh. What's scarier was that it wasn't in one place, but spread almost invisibly throughout the city. Team members fell, and Hu-Yol told the rest to infuse mana into their weapons and cut through to open a path. He genuinely didn't get what kind of enemy could cause such terrifying damage. Suddenly, a crazed robot descended from the high wall, swinging steel cables everywhere. Explosions echoed, with blood splattering everywhere. Unlike his teammates, Hu-Yol luckily avoided a tragic fate. The enemy had appeared, and he couldn't imagine it could take down almost an entire team alone. Hu-Yol angrily shouted, "You monstrous bastard! You killed my..." And without the need for more instructions, right after that, the whole team of dozens was wiped out, leaving only pieces of flesh scattered. After the KPP team's failure, other raid teams were sent, but the second and third attempts showed no progress. The association raised the difficulty level to a red gate and indefinitely suspended attacks on this fearsome Xiongju gate. And now, this gate has opened again for another assault. The participants in this dungeon sweep include the Golden Lion Group, one of Korea's top 10 guilds, Magic Tower Guild Taesung, and 48 mercenaries, Han Hari. And, of course, where there was Hari, the highest-ranked noble Leon couldn't be missing. While Leon was calmly sipping barley tea, Han Hari looked a bit worried, glancing at the king. "I'm worried about things going smoothly, but at the same time, not going smoothly. To be honest, I think the best possible scenario is if things go well without your majesty having to step in. But then your majesty wouldn't get the chance to gain fame." Leon knew this. If the king of the Lionheart didn't have to step in himself, it just meant that the situation wasn't bad. Leon asked, "What do you think the duty of a king was back in my kingdom?" Hari thought for a moment before saying to rule, and then she realized something even worse. Each time Leon jumped into tough battles was only when the attack couldn't be blocked. Indeed, the duty of King Lionheart was to deliver the last fortress. The fact that the King of Lion here had to step in was a shame to the knights, because it would reveal how serious the situation was. After a political briefing, Leon suddenly sighed. "It seems like I'll have to step in again in place of you pitiful weaklings." Hari didn't understand, and asked again, because in this raid, there was an S-rank individual and a mage, not to mention others. However, in Leon's eyes, despite having superior strength, they had never experienced real warfare. As for why this robot attacked whenever it saw people, it traced back to its past. The female scientist who created it was severely injured in a battle. Before her death, she pleaded, "Yappy, I'm sorry, this is my end. So, will you please do me one last favor? Remove all unidentified beings who invade the city." That was why it was so determined to defend this place. While Leon was still explaining, a loud explosion happened. People started panicking and shouting, "It's Jag Spinner! Take cover, cover!" The gunfire resumed, targeting the 4th raid team. Thanks to its sensor system, the robot detected 3 groups lurking around its territory. Its advanced laser gun swirled effortlessly, causing an entire building to collapse in an instant. Seeing the devastation, some didn't even get a chance to fight before meeting their end. Some from the Golden Lion team couldn't help but exclaim, "What kind of monster is that?" The robot prepared for a second barrage, dirtying its gun. Right then, Hwang Jium-Kiol swung a large hammer from above. It was a powerful hit, but unfortunately, it glanced off the edge of the machine. Still, it created enough disturbance for it to flee. Jag Spinner immediately aimed for a counterattack, but unfortunately for it, Hwang Gyeonha, a hand-to-hand combatant, suddenly appeared and delivered a powerful punch, turning the robot into a pile of scrap. Not finished yet, the mage Guild Taesung enthusiastically added a lightning strike with a lock, finally completing the raid. After being bombarded, although it didn't feel pain, the system sensed danger, continuously sending notifications of increasing damage. With many parts damaged, it urgently needed to eliminate the targets. Jag Spinner immediately activated all RWR devices in the city to search for intruders. Then, for some reason, it decided to retreat, making the hunters chasing it almost breathless. But unexpectedly, in the middle of the way, Spinner turned the tables with a hail of bullets. Seeing the ally fall like a puppet, Gil Taesung took out a prepared item and shouted, "I will activate the distortion force field. Gather around." Immediately, a large circle was erected, deflecting all bullet trajectories. This magical tool was created to counteract this boss. However, being the highest-ranked AI combat robot, it easily analyzed the coordinates, bending the shots beyond the shield effortlessly. The previously proud tool that everyone thought could confront the boss turned out to be useless. Once again, they found themselves in a difficult situation, both in offense and defense. Hwang Jeum-keol hurriedly shouted, "Mage Gil Taesung, please turn off the distortion force field. It's too difficult to predict the direction of the bullets." As the device turned off, unexpectedly, the leader of the Golden Lion Guild suddenly yelled, making everyone stop. In front of them, a deadly mesh had been set up for who knows how long. Looking around, everyone wondered how it could arrange all these things. Before, gathering in one place to avoid firepower was a good strategy, but now it became a fatal mistake. Now, advancing wasn't possible, retreating wasn't going well, and even moving was an unsolvable problem. Right at this moment, as Jag Spinner was about to open fire again, the character who liked to show off appeared. In the midst of the flying bullets, a warhorse galloped majestically. Not only that, it effortlessly destroyed the terrifying steel mesh without leaving a scratch on its body, and everyone knew who that figure was. Leon climbed onto the back of the divinely blessed horse, raised his voice, and declared, "Warriors, listen up. The courage to charge into a sea of enemies alone with just a horse, i.e. the King of the Lionheart, praise thee. I bestow upon thee the glory of being received in my presence, and the honor of a duel." Seeing someone speak up with some nonsense, everyone was confused. Even the robot struggled to make sense of it all. Leon, unfazed, kept up his cool act, conjuring a spear out of thin air and casually charging ahead on his horse. Jag Spinner used its enemy assessment system. Since Leon had an old-fashioned weapon, its damage was basically rated at 0. So, after gathering enough energy for the electric rifle, it shot a bullet towards the approaching figure. Surprisingly, the bullet got swatted away without any apparent force, a weird physics thing that left it a bit puzzled. But Leon wasn't done. He moved straight from one end to the other, easily swinging the spear forward and delivering a fatal blow that sent Jag Spinner sprawling. Defeated and beaten, the robot leaked electricity like crazy. Its danger level, which started at 0, was now at the highest. Faced with a tough opponent, the best strategy was to retreat. Despite losing a leg, it quickly retreated to its base for a systems reboot. Here, it began crunching the numbers, assessing the number of humans and their combat prowess to come up with a plan. After the calculations, it followed the trail, targeting another group of 5. One might think there's a strict kill-on-sight policy. However, while chasing some individuals toward a cemetery, a wave of memories flooded Jag Spinner's circuits, recalling words from its creator. A decision was made. Special cases required a prioritized withdrawal. Onlookers, confused, assumed the robot recognized Gil Taesung's presence and decided to beat a hasty retreat. Little did they know, the cemetery was the factor, and the robot's top priority was safeguarding the people, even if they were already deceased. Jag Spinner returned to its base, continuing to keep an eye on the battle from a distance. Out of the blue, a voice rang out from behind. "Mom, so you were here. So, did you have fun with the commoners?" Leon had a sword in hand, looking pretty cool as he stepped forward after a big explosion in the sky. "I guess I shouldn't expect honor from a machine," he said. No one knew if Jag Spinner responded, but it quickly checked itself and fired 480 bullets towards Leon from a 60 mm artillery. But it didn't cut him because his whole body was protected by some holy force field, making it impossible for any physical harm to touch that golden jade-like body. Seeing the bad situation and dealing with some weird physics, it changed tactics. After figuring out the curved path, it started shooting again, and the bullets went wild, making it impossible for Leon to dodge. Yet, the same old story. Leon just moved aside, untouched except for where he stood. In the thick smoke, Leon took the chance and hit back, but Jag Spinner dodged quickly with its AI sensors, and then Leon summoned his magical horse for another powerful attack. They kept chasing each other, the poor robot running low on fuel while Leon kept going from one building to the next. Explosions everywhere, bullets raining down, buildings collapsing. The whole city now looked like a wreck. Jag Spinner couldn't stop Leon and his magical horse. Questions kept popping up in its system without any answers. In a moment of confusion, Leon disappeared from Jag Spinner's sight, only to show up again as he descended from the sky on his horse. Ignoring all rules and logic, Leon yelled and swung the spear for a final blow, ending everything. A loud bang followed, debris flying everywhere. After that hit, Jag Spinner's body was beyond repair. Even though it was all ruined, Jag Spinner remembered what its female creator said. Yappy, what's sealed here should never be released. So, it triggered the self-destruct mode, blowing up the whole weapons stash in the area. Before, this city was invaded by monsters, and Jag Spinner was the boss of a robot army, helping the military, playing the role of protecting the city. Slowly, the place was getting closer to destruction, and Jag Spinner became the last machine standing. Its last command was to protect this city, making sure no one came close to that thing. It had kept its word, defending the city against monsters and intruders. But now, it seemed like it couldn't continue. Leon walked up to the busted robot, curious, and asked, "Even in this state, you still want to protect this place to the end?" Then, he looked to the side, checking out the big gem filled with magic. "And that must be what you were trying to protect, the Jewel of Wisdom. That's not something that should exist." After saying this, he pulled out his sword and cut the thing in front of him in two, a night of devotion and loyalty. "All living beings across dimensions are indebted to you, thanks to your service. See, Jag Spinner, I solemnly declare that your quest is complete. I hope you rest in peace," he told Jag Spinner before it took a final rest. After completing the mission, Leon returned to the Hunters Association with Oh Kang-hyun. Seeing Oh Kang-hyun's disappointed face about Leon destroying the magic gem, Leon quickly explained, "Don't be disappointed. It was a poison." Oh Kang-hyun didn't get it. How could a gem be poisonous? Noticing the confusion on this guy's face, Leon had to take a bit more time to clarify. That dark gem was made by demons to lure humans with intelligence and endless curiosity. At first, it would listen to the owner, but over time, it demanded a price for the things achieved. It would corrupt people by tempting them with dreams of immortality, turning them into demons real quick, losing their humanity. After that, Leon told him to quickly find the next gem and smash it. Someone might have fallen for the demonic trap. Oh Kang-hyun, surprised at this turn of events, said he'd inform the U.S. government and speed up the search. In the research room, looking at Jag Spinner all wrecked, Leon told everyone they would now pay respects to it and show it to the divine beings. But before that, they needed to have a big celebration for what went down. He pulled out a holy cup from thin air before everyone's surprised eyes. Then, he poured water on the robot and a golden light lit up. Miraculously, Jag Spinner, with no power source, could still function thanks to the divine blessing. Spiritual stuff is no joke. After some shakes and kiki sounds, it brought out a mini Jag Spinner, small and cute. Seeing this wonder, Leon impulsively drew his sword and stuck it in the ground. Then he did a ritual to summon the goddess before everyone. At that moment, a woman shining bright slowly showed up, looking so real that it was definitely a thing. Seeing this supernatural show in a science lab, Oh Kang-hyun and everyone else wobbled, only able to kneel to the ground. Ariana, the goddess, immediately asked Leon to explain what was going on. He spilled everything he knew. He considered the robot an honorable knight and a role model for all knights, so he hoped the goddess would give it a title. Looking at the wreckage, the goddess felt a bit weird, saying, "He has not fulfilled my quest. He has not proved his honor, nor has he offered his glory to me." One might think it's a no, but influenced by Leon's urgent plea and strong belief, the goddess still agreed and blessed the mini-robot. Jag Spinner, now a blessed knight, cried happy tears, continuously making cheerful kiki sounds. To understand what it was saying, the goddess tweaked its language a bit, letting Jag Spinner speak human language. Meanwhile, at the Meta branch of the United Nations, in Ronald Selim's room, someone kneeled, asking for forgiveness from a weird sphere. Explaining that Leon's appearance messed up the plane, the person faced the gem's anger, which cursed before stopping upon realizing it had no idea about Leon. Ordering the person to open the news and identify Leon, the gem vanished upon seeing the face and name. The demon inside the gem gave up, saying, "I give up. I'm not gonna do it. Never." In a rush, it scattered in 8 directions, leaving no time for its companion to figure out what happened. From then on, the gem stayed quiet, never saying a word again. On the day Leon turned 121 years old, the world fell apart, leaving him as the last surviving knight. He expelled all the divinity in his world and directed it into his own heart. He spent 180 years wiping out all the evil monsters. The gods at the pantheon felt embarrassed for letting a single person carry the burden of the entire world. Therefore, all gods of the pantheon owed an unpayable debt to Leon. Feeling something off upon his return, the goddess Ariana called other gods to figure out how to help their followers. Patos, the divinity of war and fire, grumbled, "Where has the king of the Lionheart, who shone bright with the glory of the gods, gone to?" Ariana, a bit frustrated, said, "Have some divinity. War, he has fought for us for more than 200 years, and won in the end." Being told to keep silent, Pestos muttered, "I know that too. That's why I'm mad at myself." A simple statement left them all quiet for a moment. After a pause, Hito, the divinity of steel and blacksmith, suggested, "Just as life did in the plains, we should give whatever blessings we can in order to raise faith within the society." He suggested using missionary work, and they would use the internet to their advantage. As soon as Hito finished, the god of war interrupted, "But why hasn't the king of the Lionheart thought of this idea? He used to be a citizen of this world." Hito explained that he was here before the internet became widespread. They picked Jag Spinner, the new Holy Grail Knight, for this important task. The next day, videos promoting the blessed rice fields in Honam flooded YouTube. Kim Jin-soo, the head of the Hunters Association, got a report. A colleague thought it was Han Hari, but Kim Jin-soo disagreed, considering she was clueless about current technology. Confused, he immediately went to Leon's place to check. At the same time, in Leon's apartment, the small robot, after borrowing Han Hari's computer, worked on content creation. With Phase 1 of the sound promotion plan successfully done, it was time for Phase 2, hacking into the global internet network. The next day, over at the Pantheon Guild, Naju Plains branch, Kim Jin-soo barged into Leon's place in a rush, demanding him to take down the video. He was taken aback when he saw Jag Spinner busy typing on a nearby computer. Trying to explain that the rice in Naju Valley was special, Kim Jin-soo emphasized its unique power to heal and keep you healthy, like something out of a fairy tale. He worried that if news of this rice got out, the whole world would come running, along with pirates and all sorts of unexpected trouble. Leon, not bothered at all, casually enjoyed a piece of cake and a sip of tea before reassuring Kim Jin-soo, "I see. I'm sure you have your own laws and systems. I get it, but that's a needless worry. The goddess's plantation cannot be stolen by anyone." And just as Leon predicted, that night, a bunch of sneaky hunters got a mission: secure the seeds and set the rice fields on fire. As soon as they hit the ground, they got to work. One of them, looking at the empty fields, couldn't believe it. "What the hell? I thought they would have maximum security set up here, but there's nothing." Undeterred, the leader told the team to bring out the gasoline tanks and follow him. Approaching the field, one sharp-eyed member noticed not just one, but a bunch of weird scarecrows watching them. Claiming he felt the scarecrows move, he got scolded by the boss. "Idiot. How are you a demonic human since you're scared of some scarecrows? Enough with your nonsense and sense the wind's direction. We need to burn the largest area possible in the least amount of time. We'll get the seeds from the storage." With gusto, they poured gasoline. But after a while, when they turned back, they found 3 members missing. Confused, the leader muttered something that gave everyone the chills. "Hey, these scarecrows, were they always this close to us?" Looking up, he saw the scarecrows with chibi faces, and they quickly drew their swords. Now the gang realized these weren't regular scarecrows, but more like monsters. At that moment, a henchman pointed forward, signaling they found the warehouse. The leader's eyes lit up at the thought of selling the miraculous rice for a fortune. He immediately changed the plan, telling his gang to grab whatever they could carry, saying, "Transport as much rice as you can to the cars. The monsters are restricted to only the field, so the storage should be fine." But swift payback arrived. The moment they set foot, they triggered a mine, making their bodies do a little somersault before hitting the ground. Before the remaining henchmen could recover, the mastermind appeared. Jag Spinner crawled closer, saying a sentence that drained color from their faces. "Unqualified human entry verified. Remove." The next morning, the rice thieves were caught and gathered, sitting in a circle next to the rule board and seedlings. The board listed 5 rules, with the second one saying no indecency, but allowing fertilizing, and most importantly, in small red letters at the bottom, "Thieves die."